Lex Luthor, the pinnacle of humanity in the free market. According to his own ego, anyway. For everyone else, he's considered Superman's archenemy and one of DC Comics' most iconic villains that isn't a member of Batman's Rogues Gallery. When written well, he's a fantastic foil to the Big Blue Boy Scout. A brilliant but bitter and insecure man with a lot of xenophobic undertones. A dark mirror to the Man of Steel who could be the pinnacle of humanity he claims to be, but without any true humanity behind the bravado or flowery speeches. There's been many incarnations of Lex in comics, video games, movies, and animation. While wildly different, they usually share the same qualities that make him Superman's greatest foe. Then we have these two dweebs. Hey there, Phantom Skull, the comic book VTuber here, and I'm here to discuss the DC Expanded Universe Lex and my adventures with Superman's Lex to compare and contrast these young tech bro jerks and to see why one is more of a Luthor than the other. Alright, before we begin, got a few disclaimers to toss out. Number one, this is my personal opinion and should not be taken as a be-all, end-all fact. If you disagree with my takes in this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Just don't be a dick. 2. This video isn't intended to be a dunking on the old DCEU, aka the Snyderverse. Anything good or bad that can be said about this franchise has been covered by much more experienced content creators, and frankly would feel like kicking a long-dead corpse for no reason beyond spite. I will specifically be talking about the Snyderverse portrayal of Lex Luthor, and why he functionally doesn't work as a Luthor, which is possibly one of the few unanimous takes about this hot mess of a franchise. 3. This video isn't to imply that I find my adventures with Superman's Lex a good character either. Honestly, this show's villain writing has always been an issue of mine, a topic I will save for a future video. And to be blunt, Pidge's incel cousin here wouldn't even crack the bottom of top 5 Luthors. Even then, at the barest minimum of the Luthor checklist, Adventures Lex still beats out this giggling weirdo. Also, very quick last disclaimer, since one of these Luthors is a live-action one, my thoughts and jokes are about the character, and not his actor, Jesse Eisenberg. While I still feel he was horribly miscast, I have nothing personal against Eisenberg himself, and I do feel bad to find out he recently considers the role a black mark on his career. Not gonna lie, he could pull off a mean Mad Hatter or Riddler if given a good script. Regardless, on to the video. For the sake of time and not getting tongue-tied, from this point onwards they will be referred to as Adventures Lex and Snyder Lex. While they're both the same person, it does feel pertinent to properly introduce them separately. In this corner, awarded the banned from over 50 subreddits for hate speech achievement, Lex Luthor. Starting off as a minor assistant to Dr. Ivo in Season 1 of My Adventures with Superman, he was originally just a cameo due to mandates to not use big-name Superman villains. He was properly introduced in Season 2 with his own villainous journey to become the billionaire Cueball we love to hate. And in this corner, currently fighting a lawsuit over inappropriate Jolly Rancher use, Alexander Luthor. One of the many villains in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, this eccentric lunatic took center stage to manipulate Batman and Superman into fighting each other, and also made Doomsday in case that plan fell through. Man, I forgot how bloated this movie was. First off, let's cover what they have in common. I mentioned it in my opening, but a key feature of both of these Lexes are their characterizations as modern tech bro-styled villains. There's been some debate about this due to the overuse of tech bros as villains in modern media, but it does track. Luthor has always been a villain of the times. Golden Age, he was a mad scientist. Silver Age, he was a proper supervillain. 80s and 90s, he was a ruthless billionaire CEO. 2000s, he was a slimy politician, etc. So it makes sense newer, modern takes on him would have this very topical inspiration. They're both smarmy, irreverent, egotistical young men who think they're smarter than everyone else and good at manipulating and convincing people to an extent. They both even out in this category. They both embody a lot of the surface-level requirements for an irritating, egotistical tech bro villain, without really going too far into being too much of parodies of any specific real-life examples. I will admit they do have different styles of tech bro characterization that go with the times they debuted it, with Snyder Lex being very much a sociopathic Zuckerberg type, while Adventures Lex gives off far more recent egomaniacal social media rage bait type characterization. But that's all that they even out on. One key thing that makes Adventures Lex work better is that the rest of the cast is the same age group. My Adventures with Superman is, for all intents and purposes, a Superman Year 1. Clark, Lois, and Jimmy are all 20-somethings figuring themselves out, and Lex is no exception. While I feel a big criticism of the show is how little actual focus Lex got to actually establish himself, since the Brainiac Supergirl storyline eclipses everything with Task Force X, you still see enough of his journey from bitter lab assistant for Ivo to the still bitter, but cunning and manipulative evil genius he will become. Snyder Lex, on the other hand, looks absolutely ridiculous when put up with his fellow Superman cast, since they're all mostly middle-aged adults and he's the baby of the bunch. For example, in the few scenes he shares with Cavill Superman, I could not take their interaction seriously at all. I almost wanted to laugh at this scrawny, Weird Al-looking cosplayer trying to look intimidating to the Man of Steel while threatening his mom. And yes, I'm aware in real life Eisenberg and Cavill are in the same age range, but like how most high schoolers in movies look like 20-somethings, it's all about how they're presented in the media they're acting in, and in this movie, he's portrayed as much younger than the rest of the cast. Luthor has and will always be a dark mirror to Superman, a regular human who is powerful due to his own drive and ingenuity, but lacking any kindness, empathy, or, well, humanity for others. This dynamic does not work as well when you make their ages so vastly different. With My Adventures with Superman, the dynamics and character arcs are on a level playing field. And now onto the meat of this video, their differences and motivations. This one can get a bit murky, as trying to pin down any consistent character traits for big two superhero characters can be daunting, since a lot of them have 80+ years of rotating writers coming up with all sorts of different portrayals or takes of them. But one unanimous trait of all Luthors is a petty, seething, and often unreasonable hatred for Superman. Sometimes there's a personal, actual reason for it, but more often than not, the reason is far more sinister and philosophical. Lex considers himself the pinnacle of humanity, as close to godhood as a human being can achieve. For all intents and purposes, he considers himself the real and only Superman. A being like Superman, who has the powers of a god, and didn't need to work for any of his goals or achievements in his eyes, is an abomination, an insult to human advancement and drive. But in true Lex fashion, mostly considers it an insult to his own ego. Most versions of Lex are self-made men. They're both ruthless businessmen and brilliant inventors. For as petty as they are, most Luthors can and will back up their smack talk to an extent. Luthor could very well be the pinnacle of humanity's natural achievements, and could even change the world for the better, were it not for his own bloated ego and callous attitude. There is also, of course, the rather blatant and unsubtle xenophobia and bigotry themes tied to Lex's hatred of Superman, aka the Alien. Many of his modern portrayals match a certain trope that I will not be getting into due to the inevitable flame war that could ensue, but you're free to look it up and judge for yourself if it's a reach or if it fits Lex's characterization to a T. When it comes to Lex Luthor, this trope is often alluded to with his humanity versus aliens mindset with his despised rival Superman. And for all the issues I have with Adventures Lex, the show gets this modern aspect of Luthor's characterization. Adventures Lex is a viciously spiteful and hateful person who despises Superman for being an alien with such unfathomable power. While he has a small personal reason for hating Superman since he blames him for causing a Mesotech to go under and lose his job, in spite of the blatantly obvious fact it was due to his boss Ivo going psycho and attacking people in the Parasite armor, but good luck telling Lex that. In general, his hatred of him being a foreigner with such incredible power is his main beef. Some of Lex's best moments of Season 2 are his seething hatred for Superman put on display, and his scarily masterful way of whipping people into anti-Superman frenzies with his fiery rhetoric, which mirrors similar if simplified tactics real-life hate groups use. I'm telling you, in another universe where Jimmy didn't accidentally encourage him down the path of supervillainy, we'd probably see Adventures Lex making bank on YouTube talking about how the latest MCU movie has gone woke or exposing the Daily Planet's pro-alien agenda to other angry dudes. Despite his big talk though, much like other variants of Luthor, there is a pitiful layer of hypocrisy and fakeness under Adventure Lex's bravado and pro-humanity rhetoric. He only cares as far as what he can get out of it and to push his own agenda and ideas. This is most prevalent in the final moments of Season 2. With Brainiac completely overtaking his Metallo drones and leaving him angry and lashing out, more concerned about taking the blame for his machine's failures, Waller, an equally despicable person who has gone full jackboot this season, still stands by and attempts to defend humanity to her last breath. When asked if Lex will do the same, he bitterly cuts and runs, showing how all of his tough, pro-humanity talk was just a smokescreen for his own bigotry and ego. While he still comes out on top to some extent at the end of the season, seen relatively unscathed by the fall of Task Force X, he's still exposed as a true Luthor to his rotten core. So what about Snyder Lex? Well, there's definitely some hints of xenophobia there, and plenty of ego, but his ego also comes with a lot of strange quirks that feel very out of place with most versions of Luthor. I'll be honest, he acts more like an office version of the Riddler than he does Lex Luthor. But the major point of contention, the one thing that is often criticized or mocked about Snyder Lex, is specifically why he hates Superman. Because his father was abusive, and nobody was there to save him. Also something gods in the sky or whatever. What? Besides reminding myself how overbearing Zack Snyder was going all in on the heroes as modern gods angle to eye-rolling degrees, this entire revelation for Snyder Lex was just silly. Now don't get me wrong, an abusive upbringing is a serious topic, and would often make for a great character backstory. Truth be told, another constant of most Lexes in the multiverse is that Luthor Sr. isn't winning any Father of the Year awards, and his abuse is a key factor in why Lex is the cold, remorseless, eat or be eaten business titan he is in most versions. But it's not why he hates Superman. I already discussed this reason in Adventure Lex's segment, so I'm just going to talk about how his hatred of his father overtakes most of Snyder Lex's personality to the point of parody. Like seriously, go back to Batman v Superman and look at Lex's scenes. In almost 60% of his dialogue, he's talking about or referencing his late father, that he's heavily implied to have murdered to take his company and fortune. Like Sweet Christmas, this man has more daddy issues than the entire main cast of the Harley Quinn cartoon and its Kite Man spinoff. Seriously, how many DC animation creatives are working out issues with their crappy dads? Anyways, this simply does not work as a motivation for his hatred of Superman, nor his weird complex about modern gods. Honestly, the Snyder movie's heavy-handed writing and themes about the DC heroes as modern gods got old really fast in general. This is such a nonsense reason to have this seething, heat of a thousand suns hatred for the Man of Steel. Granted, the xenophobic, he makes humanity look like a joke reason is ridiculous as well, but that's an intended take, and has far more narrative weight than, I had a crappy dad growing up. While My Adventures with Superman doesn't do much with its version of the character, they still complete the assignment with making a faithful, modern young tech bro Lex a solid B-. This petty, xenophobic, angry nerd captures most of the core needs for a good Luthor, and maybe Season 3 will finally give him the spotlight he needs to become the villain we love to hate. Until then, he can rest easy on his low-tier throne knowing he's at least not at the absolute bottom. Luthor, regardless of the media and universe, is truly the moral opposite of Superman. While, for the most part, Superman and his ideals are a timeless narrative to revere and aspire to, Lex is an ever-changing and shifting villain of the times, but always keeping that petty and hateful inner darkness of humanity that we're all capable of falling into. I'm excited to see what changes and evergreen aspects are coming with the next version of Superman's greatest foe in Gunn's upcoming movie. Before I go, let me leave you with this. I know things are bleak and hateful these days, but even in the face of a planet full of Lex Luthors, always strive to be a Superman. Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for checking out my video. If you like my takes on these evil baldies, be sure to leave a like and a comment. I'd love to hear your opinions on these guys. FYI, I stream semi-regularly over on the Popo site, so find me there, link below. If you'd like to follow me for more yapping on comics, anime, and superhero fun, please consider subscribing. Thanks again, and I'll catch you all later.